QuickTime events are terrible. Okay, I know I could have just ended it there, but I feel like I should expand on this a bit more, since, well, even though a lot of people do agree and it is a big thing and no one seems to really like QuickTime events, I mean, I know there are some people who say that, oh, QuickTime events can work under certain circumstances, but you see, the difference here is that I can't really think of any situations where I would say that QuickTime events are possibly a good thing. What I mean is that people say how badly that QuickTime events are used, and I basically think it's not just that they're used badly, I think they are just inherently bad. Can I think of any sort of situation where QuickTime events would be good? Maybe, but I'd have to really think long and hard about it, and I think that really speaks volume about a gameplay mechanic if I actually have to really think about how it would be even possible for the mechanic to be good at all. So it's a pretty terrible mechanic, and everyone seems to agree with this. So, QuickTime events, it's basically where you're playing the game and maybe you're watching a cutscene or maybe you're not, and then suddenly a button appears on the screen, a symbol that represents one of the buttons on the controller or keyboard or whatever, and it will represent that particular button, so you press it, and if you do it fast enough then you succeed, and if you don't do it fast enough you fail. Now, I am willing to say, and I'm going to go ahead and say that this is the lowest form of gameplay. I can't think of anything that a game could have that would be lower than this on the scale of how good gameplay it is, because really, when you strip it down, it is taking an action of pressing a button and stripping it down to its very basics, where if you press the button, which is the slightest action that you do with a controller, because really when you're playing a game and you're using a controller, then it's all about the combinations of buttons that you press and the speed. But if it's literally one button, can't get any fewer buttons than that other than 0, I guess. And the failure condition is that you do not press the button, you miss the button, or well, you wouldn't miss the button, but you miss the time frame. So it is basically press button to win, don't press button to lose, and it really is that simple. I can't think of any reason how this would be at all even remotely interesting to anyone. Once you've learnt what a QuickTime event is, and once you know what it is and once you've done it, there's nothing new that can really be presented in the terms of QuickTime events. Oh, they can flash new buttons, but that's hardly anything new, is it? I mean, you didn't know what the first button was going to be, so it's not really something new that once again you don't know what the second button is going to be. Now, the complaints that are usually brought up about QuickTime events are that they are sudden, out of nowhere, and they happen when you would not expect to, when you are, say, watching a cutscene, and these are all perfectly true. Also, the punishment is if you miss it, then you have to re-watch the cutscene or something along those lines, usually, or you have to try again, and again, that is just not very interesting. And if it is just trying again, then all you're really doing is memorization, like very slight memorization, and you'll gain a memory of an event that really holds no value or quality to you because it's really got there's no value to it. I think there are other elements of gameplay which are very similar to this that people tend to not rag on as much. One example I can think of is, say, you've got a game and something, like you're trying to escape or something, and then you, like, say, something like falls on top of you and you have to try and lift the rock up or whatever it is, and it'll like flash up a button, so it might have like square, and you have to like keep pressing the button for your character to push the rock off themselves. I think that's very similar. And again, once you've done it once, that's it. There really is no like way to alternate with this and really mix it up, because this form of gameplay is so low that you can't really, there's not much you can do with it at all. When we look at other forms of gameplay, I mean, even the very simple ones like press X to attack, there are still different things you can do, like make sure you know who to attack, or where to attack, and when to attack. But with quick time events, those questions aren't important because the answer's given to you and you can't mix it up. What do? You press the button. When do you do it? Straight away. How do you do it? By moving your thumb over to the button and pressing, and it cannot get any more simpler than that. And so once one game has done it, no game can do it again, and for it to be something completely new. So yeah, there's that. One thing that I do want to mention is that I notice when I hear justifications for QuickTime events, which trust me isn't very often, but when I hear justifications for QuickTime events, it's often things like they're there to try to keep you on your toes. Well, I guess if you knew QuickTime events were coming, then yeah, but at the same time, if you don't know they're coming and then one pops up, how are you going to react to that? You can't, because say if you put the controller down because you think it's a cutscene, then does that first QuickTime event act as a warning to say always be on your toes for these things that are going to pop up? And if so, then surely it makes sense that there's not going to be any failure for the first one, or at least it's going to be a lot more lenient. And another thing I hear is that it makes sure that you are in more control even during the cutscenes. And I don't know what they were thinking, believing that you always have to worry about some sort of action going in. It's okay to have moments of rests in games. Games do that, and they're perfectly fine for doing so. And I also hear that it adds tension and realism to the game. Now, tension, well, I would call it more annoyance than tension. And realism, really? Can you not think of any way to add realism to a game rather than have a symbol flash on the screen? It really doesn't make any sense, because if I am walking down the street and then a car like crashes or whatever, I don't have something flash in front of my eyes telling me to do something. I just react quickly in the way that I would react at the time. I'm not gonna have the big thing saying if I had like a massive sign pop in front of my eyes saying click your fingers. That's not realism. That makes absolutely no sense. And it's the same way with the buttons, because really all you're doing is you are bringing the controller to the player's attention. When you have a game and someone's playing through a game, people don't think about the controller. They don't picture the controller in their hands. It's just it's like it becomes a part of you, in the sense that the controller becomes your means of making decisions and acting. You don't think of the physical controller and where it is. So say if a giant X appears on the screen, all of a sudden what that means is that now you have to realise that the controller is in your hands, and you also now have to realise and think about where the button lies, like where is the X button on the controller. And so it really brings the controller into your mind, and that's completely the opposite of realism. That's just making you think about the controller. And to say that they are the same, or to say that bringing the controller to your mind and bringing the controller to your attention enhances realism is just obviously stupidly wrong. But there you go, that's QuickTime events, and I'm sure everyone, or at least most people, would agree. And when I've been trying to think about when could there ever be a good QuickTime event, I can think of one example. The only time I can imagine a QuickTime event being a good thing or being used in a good way is if it is the case that there might be an advantage to not pressing the button. Now, because that way you're actually bringing the human thought process, like, do I do it, do I not do it? And pressing a button or not pressing a button is the simplest way of making someone deal with a two-way decision. Do I do this action or do I not do this action? I think if you can do that, then that can kind of make sense. But then at the same time, I also think that the whole flashing on screen with a button being shown on the screen and it being an on-the-moment thing doesn't make sense. I think it would make more sense if it was like something that was established earlier on in the game, and throughout the game, like at the beginning the game will say like, oh, by the way, when you see this symbol or when you see this thing happen, you can press this button to do this thing, or you can not press the button to not do the thing, or whatever. And I think that would be fine. But I think at that point, when you do that, it's too far away from what a QuickTime event actually is. So if we're not including that, then no, I can't see any real good use of QuickTime events. I think they're absolutely terrible. And it's the same with the whole, like, ooh, press this button over and over and over. It's boring, it's not really interactive, it doesn't mean anything, and it's just... I don't know how to describe it. I just, like, to the game companies, I just want to say, stop doing it. Stop doing this. There's no point to it. It's stupid, and we're not fools. Although some of us are, but I don't want to tell them that. But they probably know it all anyway. Anyway, I'm going to end this here, so I'll see you all next time.